Hi, you're listening to Fix It After Post, and I'm Jude LaFuse.
I'm Brenna Noyes, and this is where we connect filmmaking and the business behind it.
Today, we're going to be talking about Red One.
Woo!
I worked on Red One for a little bit, so I got some inside scoops. I got some tea. I got a little
It
bit of
filmed
tea.
here in Atlanta, Georgia, so yeah, a lot of our friends, including Jude here, have worked on it. Little synopsis of the movie. Red One follows Callum Drift, the head of security at the North Pole, who teams up with hacker Jack O'Malley to rescue a kidnapped Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. Their mission takes them across various mythical realms, confronting legendary creatures and adversaries to save Christmas. Whew!
You got that?
That's a lot to unpack there.
So, I mean, a lot of us have probably seen it, seen like promotions for it and all that, but looks like a Christmas movie.
It does look like a Christmas movie.
We'll get into that. But first, let's talk about whether or not we think it's a success. Despite the financial gain of it, because it is technically...
Let's talk about exactly what the financials were.
Yes. Go ahead and say that while I pull it up.
So the production budget was reported to be about $200 million to $250 million. Now the box office earnings as of December 13th, the film grossed approximately $166.5 million worldwide. So that seems like not successful. However, Red One did just premiere on Amazon Prime. And according to Forbes, it became Amazon Prime's Video's biggest movie debut ever and had over 50 million viewers for just the first 4 days of its release on Amazon Prime.
That's pretty huge. And I think, so we don't know what they sold, I don't know, whoever made Red One.
Amazon Prime made Red One. So yes, so
they didn't have to sell it.
They didn't have to sell it. So according to Forbes and Deadline, I was looking at both. Amazon Prime initial marketing distribution plan was to just put it on Amazon Prime.
All right.
They switched it to go theatrical and Amazon Prime. And so according to the head of Amazon, they're saying that this was the plan all along, to do a little theatrical tidbit and then put it out on Amazon. And it still is in over 3,000 theaters while it's also debuting on Amazon Prime.
I think it's a good move. We'll get more into that in a second, but let's define what our successes are and whether or not we think that they are one. I think financially it's not obvious that it was a success. Maybe box office wise, no, but there's still worldwide releases. There's still residuals. Amazon Prime could sell a window to another streamer. There's ways they could make their money, but initially it doesn't look like they made it. That being said, I think that this is going to be the first movie in a line of franchises. I haven't heard, or I'm speculating here. This is a huge speculation. I'm speculating wildly. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to say this was I'm going to be on the side of this was a huge success. That's what I'm saying.
I would agree. I think it's a success.
Hold on one sec. Go on.
I think it's a success. I think on face value it looks like a bomb, but Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 30%, but the audience review has it at 90%. And maybe I think we wouldn't be having this debate or even talking about this if it did just go on Amazon Prime. Because if it did just go on Amazon Prime, people would be saying, oh, it's the biggest release on Amazon Prime, period. There wouldn't be but it lost money in the box office. Yeah. So that would be my only thing that maybe that was a mistake. But then again, they're saying that it wasn't. Okay, what do you think?
I think it was good that they did that. We may be jumping ahead here, but whatever.
Yeah.
I think, when something goes to theaters these days, it means like, hey, this is the highest echelon of movie. And when it's an action movie with Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans and all the other top tier cast that was in there, because it was stacked.
It was
J.K.
stacked.
Simmons,
Lucy Liu, Nick Kroll,
oh my gosh, like stacked.
Kiernan Shipka.
Huge cast, right? And so it's like, if you don't go to theaters now, that's like, I want to say it's not really an ego thing, but it puts you at the up there with the elite movies that are
like
coming out here.
event.
Yeah.
Feels like an
Yeah,
event.
and it really, in my mind, it puts it at a different level of, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but respect. Like, because you do have to judge it differently because it costs more to put it in a theater.
Yeah.
Like, it's more expensive, whereas Amazon Prime, they would have saved a lot more money if they just kept it on their streamer. But they were like, no, let's pay to put it in theaters and let's roll the dice there.
But they wouldn't be getting any press about it being a flop or being a whatever. Like,
Well, probably not as much, right?
Not as much,
So
yeah.
it puts it on the map a lot more.
Yeah.
When you say like, hey, it's going to theaters, that's a whole new game as opposed to just promoting on your own social media accounts and your own channels, your own PR and your own platform. It's very different. But I think if you like Dwayne Johnson, is he making movies that he's not putting to theaters anymore? Like, I don't know.
yeah, Red Notice went straight to Netflix.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he is.
That's true. But I still
And
stand by what I said
I
before.
do think he was probably attached to this while it was like just going straight to Amazon Prime. I don't know where like in the decision making they decided to change it, whatever that decision was.
I think it was a great choice to put it in theaters, even though it was a flop. Like financially, obviously, no, it wasn't a good choice.
Box office wise.
Yeah, but I think, after watching it, I think for sure I would have had a better time watching it in theaters. But I think making like making a bigger splash and making a bigger statement with it was the way to go in like long term. Because like if I didn't hear that it was in theaters and if I didn't hear all this buzz or whatever, I probably wouldn't have watched it. Like, it just wouldn't have been on in my head.
Really?
And I worked on it. And so it like
If it just went to Amazon Prime, you don't think
because
you'd
I
watch
didn't really
it?
hear about it very much.
I do feel like, and maybe it's my own specific algorithm, I was only getting Wicked content. And like the occasional Paul Mescal content, but like basically only Wicked content on all my algorithms. So like the only reason I knew about Red One was because it filmed here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I have friends that worked on it.
Right.
But I did not, I mean, maybe I'm not the prime demographic for it. Maybe I'm the prime demographic for it. But I didn't get any of the marketing, the advertising, like none of that really hit me. I didn't even really watch a trailer until like the day that we decided to watch it.
Yeah. I know they did a lot of marketing, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Let's go through our talking points.
Okay. We got
All right.
ahead of ourselves.
So our stances, real quick, to recap on all that. I think it's a huge success despite the financial shortcomings in the box office specifically.
Huge success.
I'm saying huge. I'm saying optimistic success. Like, I think this was a great movie. I think it was a great play to put it in theaters. And I think that this is going to lead, I want this to lead to a lot more.
I think it's an okay success.
Based on what?
Based on lost money in the box office. And we'll go into like the marketing strategy and all that, but I don't think it was successful in showcasing all that it was. I wasn't interested in it. And I think I might be in the demographic because we were thinking about it. I think it's like, I thought it was for 11-year-old boys. And after watching it, I don't think it's for that anymore. I think it's for my age group. And I didn't get that in any of the marketing materials. I thought it was for like little 10, 11-year-old boys.
Yeah.
So from that, like from a marketing advertising, I think it's not really a success. From the box office is obviously not a success. But I do think it's a success in terms of where it could go next.
Yeah.
I think it's a success that it went on to Amazon Prime so quickly, which they're saying was the plan all along. Who knows? So I'm saying it's a little bit of like sort of success. Success with a lowercase s.
That sounds like an album title. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm more optimistic than you are. So the talking point, the first one we'll go over is the impact of star power on a film's financial success. So this film was stacked, right?
Yeah, it was.
Like it was stacked. I mean, you got Captain America on there, you got Dwayne Johnson, you got DJ, you got J.K. Simmons, and you got who else? Lucy Liu, Nick Kroll,
Kiernan Shipka. She's big with the teens and the Gen Zers.
Oh yeah, we'll speak to her. Her performance was great.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. But anyways, that kind of, you look at that as a filmmaker and someone casting and as a producer, and you're like, okay, they all have their individual audiences. So, the better reviews of this film, the larger portion of their audiences should, watch this movie. And so that's why, big actors are so attractive financially to filmmakers. It's because it's like, oh, they have an audience that comes with them that enjoys their work, so they're going to go watch the movie. They're going to put butts in seats. Mm-hmm. When you have Dwayne Johnson that has a Instagram or has a following of over 350 million.
That's crazy.
You can expect a pretty decent turnout from him alone.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, when they added him to Fast and Furious was already a huge franchise. When he added it, like, that's when they literally went to, like, outer space with their films. And I think he came in before that. Anyways, so, I think something went wrong here because the box office didn't there wasn't 350 million people watching from DJ's audience alone. Yeah. So, like...
Where did they go?
What happened?
Yeah, what happened?
What went wrong? And, I think, obviously Chris Evans is a gigantic player as well, and everyone else has a great audience, big audiences, but clearly the biggest one is probably Dwayne Johnson's.
Do you want to go into where you think it went wrong? Like, where do you think it went wrong?
Yeah, so I think, I kind of want to think about what's his demographic. Because he has 350 million people following him. Yeah. Who's the majority of the people following him? I would assume kind of, if I had to guess, I have no idea, but if I had to guess, I'd say 24 to 34 male. Yeah. It's what I would guess is probably like
maybe some
30
like
to 40% of his
younger because of Moana. Yeah. But also it's like, you're going to follow Ali more than you're going to follow Dwayne Johnson for Moana content.
Yeah, and I would say Chris Evans would probably be kind of similar. The main demographic is something maybe a little similar. Maybe a larger female base, though, because he's kind of a charmer.
I do agree with that. Yeah. So, but I think Dwayne Johnson, it's more male, I would think.
Probably more males, because a lot of my friends and people I've heard, they're just like, they follow him for inspiration for all the things that he puts out and stuff like that. And so that's what I would guess. And so where I think, it went wrong was that's his main demographic and kind of what we talked about earlier, like the trailer and the marketing pieces and stuff like that. I haven't seen what he put out on social media, like how it looked, but all the marketing materials I saw, it really did look like super Christmassy and
like family movie. Like I got like Christmas family action. Like I was getting more like the pacifier vibes. Action movie for kids. Like Christmas action movie with these superhero-esque characters for kids.
Yeah, so when it's like a family kid movie, very Christmas, good time, kind of a like even action, even in that category, like I think you get the 40 to 50 and then the parents and they bring their, their 8 to 12 kids. And I think, it's like that's the demographic that's right on the outsides of what I think is his main demographic. And, you know, he's obviously got some in there, though.
Yeah.
And so I think what happened was his main demographic, I think they were right in...
Not going.
I think they were right in focusing the marketing campaign to be like, hey, DJ, post on your social media. That's going to be our main source of budget. But I think the problem was the message they were sending, because that was the right demographic. After watching the movie, it very much was geared towards older guys, like, you know, young adult males, I think. Action.
Like, you know, girls like Fast and Furious and stuff too, but yeah.
There's, you know, there's more testosterone, there's more action, there's more eye candy, and it's centered around two male figures.
Yeah.
So I think just
with a female antagonist.
Yeah, and so I think there's a lot of push for really relating to it from, you know, as a male anywhere between 18 and 30. And so, and I think that's DJ's prime demographic.
Yeah.
But when I watch a trailer that's like, you know, looks like a good time, Christmas movie, action packed, I was still interested, but...
You weren't going to go buy a ticket to go to the theater for it.
Because I was like, I think it could be cool. I was curious, but to be honest, I was a little doubtful that I was going to like it.
Yeah.
And I did hear a lot of negative buzz first.
Well, I mean, Rotten Tomatoes is 30%. That comes out before the movie comes out.
Yeah, and I was thinking to myself, like, oh, I don't even know if I want to watch this before we watched it. And but then while watching it, I was like, oh, it was...
You loved it.
I love it.
Yeah.
And it was like, I really, really liked it. Like, way more than I thought I would. We'll get into why, but I think that was just a big miss in terms of how they represented the movie.
The movie is also PG-13, which did not get from the trailers. Did not even know until they're like kind of swearing, and I was like, wait, what?
If they made it rated R, I think it would have done better.
If they would have made it R and then marketed as R. Yeah. Well, it would have been like a Deadpool-esque sort of thing, which could be fun. I mean, a rated R Christmas movie, like, that's fun. But I don't think they wanted to...
Actually, I take it back. I think PG-13 is the way to go.
I think it's the way to go if they would have marketed that way.
Yeah, I think there just wasn't a cohesion between what the movie was showcasing itself as and who they were delivering it to.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so I think so the star power should have brought the right people, but I think, the wrong message to the wrong avenues. But it definitely had more than enough star power, like way more than it needed to be a success.
I also just think it got overpowered by the massive marketing campaign that Wicked was on, even Gladiator 2.
That's true.
And I think it just got like, I haven't seen Dwayne Johnson or Chris Evans doing nearly the amount of press junkets and marketing materials. And also like, I'm not on the algorithm, so I don't think it's coming to me. Yeah. But I don't think you got it either, and you're... should be on that algorithm.
It should, yeah. I saw just some other friends that worked on it. I saw them posting about it. That's literally it.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything else. And I follow Dwayne Johnson.
Oh yeah, I don't think I follow anyone but Kieran Shipka.
Yeah. So I think star power is great. It's just you got to know how to use it. With great star power comes great responsibility.
Clip that. Put that on a t-shirt.
With my face. All right, next question, or next point. Challenges of blending holiday themes with action themes.
That's an interesting... have we really seen that? I'm sure we have.
What?
Like
Action and Christmas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Santa Claus.
It's not action.
Harry Potter is a Christmas movie.
Harry Potter is a magical fantasy with some celebrating Christmas in it.
So was Red One.
Well, exactly, but they didn't market it that way.
Okay.
We'll get to that. That's what it is, but they didn't.
Okay. So has it happened before? Yes.
I mean, I'm sure.
What should you think about? What are the challenges with doing that? I think it has to feel right. So, our last podcast was about Elf.
Yeah.
And we talked about Christmas, and we talked about how great it was for being naive and optimistic around Christmas time, around the holidays, and how that just blends so well.
Yeah.
when I think about action and
That's true.
Christmas, action's very different from naive optimism because it's move fast and break things. It's not really like naive. It's more of a confidence. Whereas being naive is the opposite.
Yeah, it's like, do I want to see people beating up other people during like the merriest holiday?
I mean, it creates an oxymoron, which kind of can be interesting because you're full. You hear the nice music and you see the nice things, and so to see the opposite has to generate some kind of interest just for being alternative. I could see that, at a certain point, but then there also comes a point where it's like, this is just. I don't want to see this.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think what you have to do is at the end of, at the movie, the main premise, if it has holiday themes, I think it needs to have holiday messages, like.
Yeah.
Because if there's just like, I don't know, if it's centered around Christmas, which Red One is, I think they need to make the main message kind of synonymous with what people relate to when thinking about Christmas.
I mean, little spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Red One yet, go on Amazon, go watch it. Chris Evans' character, I think that's kind of what they were trying to go. They were trying to give him like a Scrooge arc. They were trying to give him a Santa Claus arc. Like they were giving him the stereotypical like sort of deadbeat dad, isn't cheery, isn't merry, like work esque arc that we've seen so many times. But that wasn't like communicated in the marketing materials. Like we didn't see that arc really set up. It was just like action. Chris Evans and Dwayne Johnson breaking things and taking names and rescuing Santa Claus.
What was interesting is Dwayne Johnson also had the same arc. I
guess technically, he did.
He wasn't feeling the spirit, and that's why he was like retiring or whatever, and then he got it back, and that's kind of similar. I mean,
that is it's just like Chris Evans was more like sarcastic and whatever about it,
but like team up, so it would make sense. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but we've seen so many other action movies where it's like they have two different arcs, and yet they still work together to get their individual arcs. But I just realized it kind of had the same arc of like, I'm not feeling Christmas or the things surrounding it, and at the end I do.
And now I do.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. I would say if you're going to be the challenges of doing holiday in action, I don't know. I'd say the biggest thing is make sure it feels holiday-ish. Don't forget that.
Which I do know is a big critique that a lot of the critics on Rotten Tomatoes were saying, that like, I thought this was supposed to be a holiday movie, and like, where's the holiday cheer?
Yeah.
Like it was a holiday movie without the holiday merriness, which like we'll get into, but it wasn't actually a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Not really. And at the end of the day, it like wasn't a Christmas movie. It was just about like the plot served that it was Santa Claus, but like it wasn't a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
And so I do think that that's where a lot of critics were like, I was expecting Elf, and instead I got Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's why audiences, it's working with audiences because maybe they don't give a crap about Christmas and they just wanted a good, fun, popcorn action movie.
Well, I'd like to think that, and I do want to dive into this more, so I'd like to think that the audience saw it for what it was and was pleasantly surprised, because at the surface, it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
They promoted themselves as a Christmas movie, and I do think that was the right thing to do, because it's Christmas time, and it was largely about Christmas, and yes, the world is much bigger than just Christmas, but I do think that was I think it was the right thing to promote it as Christmas. I just think it was a little tricky because it's like, yes, it was more than Christmas, but I don't think anybody was like, oh, this is more than just Christmas.
Well, the critics didn't get it.
Well,
but I do think that like, sure, we can scoff at Rotten Tomatoes and the critics and stuff, like they don't always they don't always get it right when it comes to being on the same page with the audience. But I do think that it made a difference on people going to the theater or not, because they saw the Rotten Tomato score and they're like, I'm not spending $40-some to take my family to the movie theater on something that got a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're gonna go a theatrical...
$80. I'm still thinking about that $40. I'm like, there's no way. Like, we spend $40.
Yeah, I know. But it's just too. If you're taking your whole family, that's like $100 right there. If you're gonna get popcorn and pop
for
and whatever.
30%, yeah, I'm not doing that.
You're not spending that, and so I do think that you have to really think about that.
Yeah, I think there's impact. I'm just saying, like, what else are you supposed to do? Like, yes, you can market it. I feel like it would be more confusing to try to market it as this is mostly a Christmas movie. Oh, but there's a bigger world in this space, and giving like I think that's too hard, and I think you might wind up in a situation. I'm trying to think of an example. A situation like Fly Me to the Moon, where you're like, what is this about? And like, I'm confused.
Maybe, but like, okay, a little spoiler alert. There was no mention of the world being bigger than just Santa. Like, there was no mention of other mythical creatures. Yes, it was there in the synopsis, which I was very surprised about, because before watching, I did not know that this is a world where also the Headless Horseman exists, and Bigfoot and all these other creatures. Like, they could do spin-off movies of all those different holidays, of Cupid, of Bigfoot, of Headless Horseman, whatever. They could do their own like franchises for every holiday, which is so much fun. They could have at least shown that shot where like Chris Evans walks through the headquarters and he sees like the Headless Horseman and the jack-o'-lantern and whatever, and they kind of like set up like we're the department of all mythical, logical things, or whatever the name of the department was. Like, they could have had that little clip. That takes 10 seconds, whatever, in the trailer. Do you think that would have helped?
It all depends on the presentation. I think how they assemble the trailer, but I do think it's a slippery slope. Because like, you want to hand feed people, that's their first exposure to what this media is. Yeah. And if you overwhelm people, I think even a little bit too much, then I think that's too much. You know, a little bit, you know, you're really tipping the bean can when you give two different like genres and two different ideas of what something might be. Like, is it a Christmas movie? A Christmas in action? How action-y? Oh, it's bigger than Christmas. What is this about? You know?
Do you think then that's a problem with like the writing in general, like the story in general, like writing something that's bigger than Christmas for a Christmas movie?
I think no, because I don't think that should change. I think write the biggest world you can, for sure. And then like, I think the challenge is then with the marketing and advertising, like to do it justice. And I think my swing at it would be, let me look at the stories here and try to best represent the story with the most similar tone. So like, I think you're onto something with showing that little like clip of Chris Evans when he was in the facility, whatever, and we see that the world is bigger. I'm sure there's a few like quotes from some of the characters saying like, this is like, I'm sure Lucy Liu at some point said something that was like, this is much bigger than blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. She did. She set something up like that.
So I think there's a way we could hint towards that. But I think we got a little bit too much action in the trailer.
I think so too.
And there should have been at least like 10 different trailers like out there. So there might be one out there that we haven't seen yet that's like a little bit more story driven. Yeah. But that's not the biggest one.
Yeah, and it's not the one attached to the movie on Amazon. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the one that a lot of people are watching.
Yeah. But maybe later, I mean, it might be, the other ones might become more popular, the more like, story-based, like plot-based. Trailers might come out to prove better, get more people to watch it on Amazon.
Because I did have a fun time with like how serious they took it. Like, this world is like serious business. Like, those like snowmen, those are real people that they were like beating up and whatever. That was fun, but like, didn't get that in the trailer.
Yeah.
Of course, you have 2 minutes to communicate some, like the tone and all that.
Yeah.
But I just got like fight, fight, punch, punch, kick, kick. J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, I think it was tough. I think it was pretty hard. It's hard to grab it's hard to grab all those elements and still convince people to want to like see more. So that being said, like I think it did a pretty good job. When I watched the trailer, I was excited to watch it, and I didn't even know it was a bigger world. I thought it was just
Christmas
and actions and explosions or whatever. And I was like, you know what? I'm down for it. Like I'm still down. I don't care. I like eye candy, all that. And so I was interested, and then I was pleasantly surprised when there was more. So I'm not complaining. But is there room to grow? Yes. And how they will do that, I don't exactly know.
Is it better to be impressed? Like, okay, the trailer gives you a certain expectation.
Yeah.
And then when you go either to the movie or you watch it at home, and is it better to be impressed or to be like, dang, the trailer was better than the actual movie?
I think it's always better to be impressed because
Yeah.
that's what gets you to act. Like as an audience member, like you always want
To tell people to go see it.
Because you were excited to go see it, and then you only want to tell other people if you were impressed. If your expectations were met, you're gonna be like, yeah, it was good. But if you got more than what you thought you were gonna get, you're gonna be so excited to tell your significant other, your family members, your friends, whatever, like, dude, you gotta watch it.
Well, I do think that that's why it's doing better on Amazon Prime, is because the word of mouth now that people are, because of the marketing materials, people weren't going to spend $100 to go see it, especially like if they have things like Wicked or Gladiator up against it, they're going to spend that $100 on one of those and not on Red One. But if you can watch it at home, then it's like, oh my God, this little secret gem was better than what I was expecting. Sit down with your family and watch it for 2 hours. That's an easier commitment to convince of people.
Yeah. So
I think we talked about that.
The role of critical reviews in influencing box office performance. Yeah, definitely. Just because that influenced me. I saw the reviews and I was like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't watch this.
Yeah.
And I was biased because I like to watch stuff that I worked on and stuff like that. You want to see how it turns out, whatever. So yeah, but it definitely has some influence for sure. And so that kind of sucks. That's just unfortunate.
Is it something that you kind of know possibly what like critics are going to be in favor of or whatever. Do you change like the writing of the film to appease critics?
No, I wouldn't. I would just like, I would try my hardest to like have faith and trust my audience. And I would just, because I think it's really, it always I think goes back to make the best film you can. Because I think when you try to pick and choose too many other variables or whatever, then it's not your film anymore.
You get a hodgepodge.
Yeah,
also.
The vision isn't going to be clear and the direction's going to be all over the place. And that's when you just get a mess. So I think it's better to have an unsuccessful movie, but
a cult following.
Because it's like, oh, it speaks to somebody.
Yeah.
Then a movie that doesn't really hit home for anybody, then it's just like, okay, what was the point of making that then? And it's like, critics are going to get it, or they're not going to get it, or they're not going to like it, or they're going to like it. And it's just like, those are just critics. And, maybe there's too much power with critics. But at the end of the day, it's like also like, how much power do you as an audience member give to the critic?
Yeah.
Because I give them personally zero power. My favorite, probably my top 10 favorite movies all have sub 40%, bless you.
Sorry for the audio.
Sub 40% scores on all the critic reviews. And it's like, I think that's kind of likely to be the case because critics might be looking for, I don't know, they're all different. They're going to be looking for different things, but for a really specific movie that's really driving home one particular vision and hitting on some points really hard, that's only going to hit a few people really hard.
Yeah.
Because that's that specific. It's only going to be that specific to a sub part of an audience. And so those people are going to love it, whereas the majority are going to be like, I kind of can't relate, but it's still, maybe good or whatever.
I wish they marketed to that specific audience people, though, because I think they tried to go more broad. They tried to go like Marvel trailer where it's appealing to everyone. It's appealing to the kids. It's appealing to grandma. It's appealing to whatever. But the movie itself was not that. The movie itself was that very particular specific audience.
I don't think that's the best they could have done because they marketed towards, with the trailer that we saw, they marketed towards action lovers. And the genre and the audience of action lovers is definitely going to be bigger than like the story of Chris Evans.
Not even the story, just like the tone. Like the tone I don't think was communicated. The fact that it's like PG-13?
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
Yeah.
I wonder like how many parents like brought their kids and then was like,
oh, it was a little darker.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, this is PG-13? Like I didn't know.
It was definitely pushing the limits of PG-13 too.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It
was okay. I mean,
there was nothing like bad. It was just like, I was expecting it to be like a G movie.
Yeah.
And it was like hard PG-13.
I was expecting a little bit more happy-go-lucky, some villains with some kind of like more wacky or goofy motives, and that kind of a thing.
I was like, no, this was a little
like
dark.
It was just serious.
Serious. And I don't think that was communicated.
Yeah.
And so I think if they put in a little bit of the few more like PG-13-esque jokes in the trailer or like themes a little bit more, the way that like Deadpool did, maybe they would have gotten their audience a little bit more when it came to like theatrical. Because I was going to say like, those people weren't going to go to Wicked, so they might have gotten those people to go to Red One, but those people were probably going to Gladiator too, so...
Yeah.
But at least they could have tried a little bit more of like, or maybe they realized like, okay, this specific audience is going to Wicked, this specific audience is going to Gladiator 2. Our audience overlaps with Gladiator 2, but what Gladiator 2 doesn't have is like the kids and the families. Maybe we try to market to that because if they can't go to Wicked or Gladiator 2, then they'll come to us, like the 12, 13-year-old boys. But that's not really what the movie was made for.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, going back to I would call it a success because I think the movie was good. And I think that the word of mouth from the people who did watch it and communicated that, I think that's carried them into the level of, to the point where I would call it a success. A huge success, because I just think, I call it a huge success because it's setting up so much more.
It is setting up a lot, but it's going to be interesting to see if they take advantage of it or not. Because I haven't heard anything about them setting up franchise, sequels, whatever.
Yeah. So I guess it's not fair, I guess, for me to say like huge success, but because I'm talking about potential here. But I think it's, I guess it'd be more appropriate for me to say I think it's a success, and later it could become a huge success in retrospect if they decide to move forward with some other parts of the IP. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Production management and its effect on the film budgets.
So this is speaking heavily towards Dwayne Johnson's schedule, we'll say. So this was the second, maybe third, at least the second time I've worked with Dwayne Johnson. And the first time I worked with him was on Black Adam. And I witnessed something on Black Adam that I've never seen on a film set before, and it was the crew waiting on him to fly in and get the set. And so we waited several times for many hours, which is insane. Like, it's just not something you do. Like, you don't wait for anybody for hours, except for the weather. So that's the only thing.
Mother Nature you'll wait on.
That's the only, lightning delays are the only reasons why you can be like, well, nothing we can do. We gotta wait, or waiting for sundown or sun up or whatever. There's like it's the weather.
Natural elements,
And so for Dwayne Johnson to get that same kind of treatment is kind of wild as the weather. Because we'd be waiting for hours for him to show up on set, and then he'd get there, he'd do a couple shots, and then he'd be gone. Sometimes I wouldn't even see him. He would be in there, I'd go to the bathroom, I'd come back, he's gone. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know he was here. And definitely no different on Red One. I mean, It's reported.
It is reported, so it's documented, that Dwayne Johnson's tardiness during production added approximately $50 million to the budget just because of having to wait. And that's like, of course, you're paying the crew that's waiting, you're paying for the equipment, the whatever that's waiting.
Penalties, whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is. So that's reported. That's reported. And I do also think that that's just a known fact. And so before you even cast Dwayne Johnson, like that's just, that's how he is, that's how he works, that's his process, that's
something
method.
you have to factor in.
That is something that is factored in. Yeah. That's just like a known period stance you're gonna wait for him.
Yeah.
And so before you cast Dwayne Johnson or anything, it's like you gotta weigh, okay, you're gonna lose money by waiting on him. That's just the way that it's gonna work. And you're gonna lose
morale too, because like the crew was like,
they're gonna be a little frustrated if they have to wait.
Yeah, because it's very frustrating because it's like, hurry, go, 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 go. You're setting up lights, you're setting up angles, everyone's moving fast, and then you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're waiting, and it's like, why are we here? You know, it's like you feel a lack of respect and all that stuff, and it's like, so you lose morale, but yeah, you're also losing a ton of money because he doesn't work on small projects, and so.
But then you're factoring in like we said. If you hire Dwayne Johnson for a project, you are automatically getting an audience of 350 million followers just through his social media alone. And that's not including fans of his work that don't follow him on social media, maybe like an older demographic or what have you, but they see that he has a movie and just automatically go see it because of him.
Right.
So when you cast him, you're weighing like, okay, those butts in seats or butts at home that are watching him is going to outweigh the amount of money that it's going to cost waiting around for him.
Hopefully, because it doesn't look so great in this case when it doesn't work out like that.
But, and I believe that's happened on a few other movies of his that has critically not done well, but audience-wise have done really well. Yeah. I think Red Notice was one where critically it was not good, but it was, the #1 movie on Netflix for a while, and a lot of people watched it. Now, same with this one, same with a couple others of his. It's like, it's been proven audiences like him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a reason why he has that.
There's a reason why he has, that following.
He has his thing, and he's the only one that can do it at that caliber. And so with that, he has special privileges that no other actor has.
Yeah.
Or can get away with.
Well, most other actors. Other actors do that and get away with it, but.
All right, so. The effectiveness of marketing strategies for high budget films. Yeah, so what is the biggest factor for a high budget film to make it a success? Because from this, we can see, box office wise, when you're talking strictly financially, I think we're gonna have to limit ourselves to just financial success here. What is the most important variable? Because this is proof that it's not about star power, which is largely believed to be the highest, the highest contributing factor is, you gotta have a big star if you wanna make your money back on a high budget film. When this film shows that's not true.
I don't think you can rely on that. In 2024, I don't think you can rely on that alone anymore. I think it's about the press junkets, about the viral moments, it's about the memes, it's about like all this stuff. Like my TikTok is filled with holding space for the Defying Gravity lyrics, and Ariana and Cynthia crying during press junkets, and the controversy, if you want to call it, around that. But like, no matter what, people are seeing it, they're talking about it, they're posting it, they have ideas on it, they have controversy on it, they're debating about it, they're talking about differences of like theater culture around it and all this. And I just have not seen any talk, period, about this movie. I haven't been seeing like their press junkets, I haven't been seeing like the chemistry between the actors. Like, I have not seen one press junket with Chris Evans and Dwayne Johnson.
There's no way they didn't do one.
I'm sure they did. It's not, there's no viral moments or no.
I kind of want to speak to that real quick. Okay. The chemistry between Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans. How do you feel about that?
I thought it was there.
Because that speaks to, you know,
It was fine.
in advertising and press junkets. And
Yeah.
Like, when you see that, that makes you want to go watch the movie.
100%.
Like with Ryan Reynolds and, and Hugh
yeah.
Jackman, we saw all this.
I wanted to see the movie. I'm not a huge Deadpool fan, and I wanted to see it just because of them.
We saw them. We saw their chemistry, and we're like, oh, they're like naturally, they naturally
buddies.
clash, and like their personalities like clash in a funny way.
But
like,
they're like best friends, and we're like
Yeah.
you get that. You get
Right.
that they're like friends,
so
they're
it's like,
buddies.
oh, yeah, that looks like fun to watch because it looks like they have fun with each other. It just makes so much sense. I just gotta watch it. And watching the movie, watching Red One, like the chemistry between Chris Evans and Dwayne Johnson is just like, I don't know. It didn't feel like they were battling for the screen,
Yeah.
but maybe that was more in like maybe it was in the cinematography. Like it felt
Well, I
like.
also think it might be the writing, the point that you brought up that they have the same arc.
Yeah, so the point I was really just about to bring up was I think they were you were watching Chris Evans and you were watching Dwayne Johnson. It wasn't, I never felt like, I don't even remember the characters' names. Like Jack was Chris Evans, and then Dwayne Johnson was
Callum. Right?
I never, because you can have two stars together. I mean, just look at Marvel, like Endgame.
Yeah,
like, they have all these stars, and yet there's a lot of chemistry between all of them. And there's a lot of other movies too, but like that kind of scale, it's about the framing. How do you really show, you know, two or more powerful figures clashing or working together or something like that? Like I feel like I didn't see, like physically, like visually, I didn't see a lot of cinematography that complemented them too. Because I think that could have helped their chemistry or lack of. Like, I never felt like, oh man, them two, like.
I watched this buddy cop drama.
It was null. It was like, it's a Chris Evans movie and it's a Dwayne Johnson movie. And,
I agree.
And I kind of felt something with Dwayne Johnson and J.K. Simmons. I
agree with that.
I kind of felt like some good chemistry there. But it's just like, yeah, I don't know. But I think the cinematography could have helped. I think a little bit more, some framing. Yeah. But I know it's
but you're
it's
just
tough.
not seeing, and then even just like bigger than the film itself, you're not seeing that in the marketing materials or anything like that. Like the way that you're seeing Ariana and Cynthia, like, or even, you know, Paul Mescal and Pedro Pascal, like, you know, you're seeing that and you're not, I didn't see anything for Red One in terms of like, because in 2024, like it's now bigger than the film. You can't just rely on a film anymore. Like there's a world outside of it that you really do, at least to make a difference in the demographic of Gen Z or young millennial. And that was their target demographic.
Yeah. I think press junkets, I think are everything now, and they're bigger than ever because they provide social media. They are the fuel that people, you know, rip from the junket or whatever, and then they put it on social media, and then it goes viral through reactions, through reposting, through ripping, through people's interpretations, all like, you know. But you need to have that in the first place to be able to put it through social media, the social media circuit, I'll call it. You know, like, and if that's not there or if it's not interesting enough, then it's not going to go through this circuit. But at the same time, I think you also do need marketing, because if I, like, let's say, let's take Deadpool and Wolverine, like even though we saw a lot of that stuff, if I didn't also get the marketing of knowing where to go watch it, then if it wasn't totally convenient for me to watch it, then I might not have watched it.
That call to action is important.
So I think like you really need these days, you need the PR and you need the press junkets, you need the interviews, you need to see the characters out of their character to be talking about it. That's giving a feel for like who's in it, why they should watch it, you know, what if the people who made it, what do they think about it? You know, like that's when you have a friend tell you like, oh, I just made the best cake ever, you need to try some, you're gonna want to try it. But if you have some stranger be like, I have this cake, and you should probably watch it. I'm not eating that cake. Get that cake away from me. It was like, dude, I just made the best cake. It's got strawberry. It's got vanilla. It's got all kinds of things. It's your favorite. I warmed it up. Here you go. You can have it if you want it. I'm going to eat that cake. So I think you need that, which is really important. But then you also need just like very direct call to action signals to be like, this is the movie you've been seeing all over the place. Watch it on this streamer or watch it here. Watch it in theaters. Like telling people you have this information. You're familiar with this film or this TV show. This is what you do with that information, so that it makes it as simple and as easy for the consumer to be like, oh, I was interested in that. I am interested in that. Now I know where to watch it.
Yeah.
Because like, there's so many choices. If I'm not being like handheld, like led to a movie, who knows which one I'm gonna pick, if any at all, you know?
Especially for like the average movie watcher, you're not like sitting there scrubbing the internet trying to figure out where to get this like indie obscure horror film. It's like, you got like 1 hour on the weekend, you're just gonna put on Netflix and watch the easiest movie that's like #1 trending. Yeah,
and if you look at like top 10 or whatever, and it's like, oh, number 7 is something you recognize, and you're not really interested in 1 through 6. It's like, oh, but I am familiar with 7. Let me give that one a shot, even though it's 7, when it makes the most sense to watch 1, just in general. So I think really like these days, you really need both of those things. And we're not really always seeing that with the top echelon of films, you know, when they should be doing everything they can to like get you to watch the movie. In this case, they relied, I think, heavily on social media, which I think could have worked. It's just I don't think they had the right messages. The right
I agree.
To back up their
viral moments.
Yeah.
Not to say that you should like manufacture viral moments, because it's not gonna come off as realistic or authentic.
You can try,
but it's just like giving them the opportunity, more exposure, more moments of potential viral things.
Look, you could have taken clips from, you know, you could have had Dwayne Johnson in a press junket, and you show a little clip, and you're like...
You have Dwayne Johnson dress up as Santa Claus, big beard, big belly, go out in New York City with Billy Eichner, and they're doing Billy on the streets, and you have a picture of Dwayne Johnson in a Santa costume. There's your viral moment right there.
Yes, but I don't think that's the demographic. I think like...
I'd go see that.
I guess so, but it's like, and I think it would be validated because, okay, so this idea of validation I think is really important in respect to marketing, advertising, and then the product. When you see an advertisement for something and you're excited by it, and then you go experience the product, in this case you watch the movie, if that's not validated by what got you there in the first place, then you're gonna be mad as hell.
That's true.
You're gonna be like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. True. Like, harumph. And then you're going to tell your friends, no, it was awful, blah, blah, blah. When in honesty, like in truth, like it was okay, it was fine, it was good, it was great even. But it's not what you wanted. Like, oh, I really want Mexican food. And you're like, oh, okay, let's go. I'll take you there. And then we go and we get Indian food or pizza or something. Well, pizza's a bad example because I always love pizza. But we go get Indian food and it's like, harumph. Like I was getting my expectations up for Mexican food. Like, I love Indian food fine, but that's not what my expectations were for.
That's true.
And so I think that's a really big thing too, is like really targeting people and putting in the work to target them right. Because like I love Nick Kroll.
Yeah.
And like his scene was hilarious, and that's why they picked Nick Kroll for the funny, ridiculous scene. And if they interviewed him, they talked about his crazy scene and they took a little bit of clip and they put that on social media, sent it with some comedy tags,
I
some
mean, maybe
keywords.
they did.
That would have reached me.
I guess that's
because
true.
I love Nick Kroll and I love comedy and I love action. It checks a lot of my boxes. Why didn't I see that?
Yeah.
And
I didn't even know Nick Kroll was in the movie.
same. Yeah, I didn't know either. But, at the end of the day, it just takes like it really doesn't take that much money to reach the metro areas of the US.
Yeah.
Like, with a few $1,000,000, you can reach the vast majority of some metro areas.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure their advertising budget was way higher than a few $1,000,000. But it might have went to the wrong channels.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, it can go to great channels and go to bad channels, but at the end of the day, it's really about what are the assets that people are seeing. Once it's gone through the channel and it's reached the audience's eyes, what are they consuming? What are they looking at? Does it hit right? Like, if I saw the saddest, sappiest moments with some sad music behind it for Red One, I'd be like, no, I don't.
What is this movie
I
about?
don't think I'm. Well, maybe I might have understood it, but I would have been like, I'm not interested in this.
That's true.
So it's really about telling the story that needs to be told to whoever it is, but it also has to be close enough to the actual product for me to watch it, want to go watch it, then go watch it, be happy that I watched it, then be surprised that it was better than what I thought it was going to be. That's the recipe for me being like, guys, you have to watch it. This was awesome. It was everything that I wanted it to be, and it did this crazy thing. I won't spoil it, but you got to watch it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. Moving forward, do you think that there could be potential benefits of different casting choices? Of all avenues, like from a marketing advertising standpoint, but even just from like the chemistry to just the film in general. I mean, we could talk about the current casting choices. So, of course, we have Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans. We have Lucy Liu as in a role that she's done before, or at least like feels comfortable and familiar in. She's kind of like the head of this department.
Yeah.
She's like the one explaining to the audience what's going on, what's happening, where we're at, all of that sort of stuff. She's like leading that plot exploration, and I think she does a good job at that. And then we had Nick Kroll in this sort of like goofy antagonist, turns out to not be the main antagonist sort of scene. I think he made sense once the scene progressed. And then we had Kiernan Shipka in the main big protagonist, which was, I think for us, I thought she was great. I love Kiernan Shipka. I think it was like an interesting choice at first because we're like, oh, this young girl, but I think that was kind of the point.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I don't know if I agree with that's the point. But I thought, I think The Rock, I think he was casted appropriately. I can't really imagine anyone else, like maybe Jason Statham.
I feel like he'd be better in the Santa role.
He could have maybe,
because this is like fit Santa.
Right.
This is like,
so that's the thing. Okay,
this
so
is like a hunky.
I-
We didn't even talk about J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons is Santa Claus,
yeah,
which is also very interesting.
So, I think The Rock's casting is right. I think the whole movie was catered around him.
Yeah, for
Why
sure.
wouldn't it
That's
be?
why I think he might have been there from conception.
Maybe, possibly. And so I think he fits really well. I think they made it work with J.K. Simmons. Like, do I look at J.K. Simmons and think Santa? No. But they kind of gave an alternate view of Santa,
Well, I
sort
think
of.
that was on the page. It was probably like fit Santa to begin with because that was the plot. The whole plot was like, this is like a spy mission.
It makes
like,
sense.
you have to be so fit to go to all these different, like, they took Christmas and they were like, this is a realistic, serious, like, thing.
They gave it a different point of view.
Yeah, it
we
was
have a
fun.
different perception of Santa, which is kind of cool and interesting. And I think it was a pretty interesting swing, and I think it landed for me. Like I think I liked it. It was interesting and fresh, new perspective on Santa. But it was one that I think that's pretty risky to do.
I was gonna say very risky. Also, they didn't really like showcase that in the marketing materials, which
Yeah.
maybe was intentional because they're like, it would be hard to explain. Like, no, this is fit Santa. Like, this is like this is a whole different world or view or point of view or whatever. And I don't even think they wanted to touch that in 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
I think they finessed that well for what it was, for who he was and how they were portraying
But
it.
it was like, oh, J.K. Simmons a Santa? Like, I don't know.
I was kind of okay with it, and then when they first introduced the whole fitness aspect of Santa, I was like, what? Because it wasn't original. It wasn't like boom, fitness exposition, explaining it all.
Yeah,
it was just like
he's doing weights.
Yeah, and
he's
it's like
talking.
what? And then, but then it made sense, and I'm down with it. I'm cool with it. As far as like him and his role, and what he contributed to the story and like the plot points, I think he did what he was supposed to do. I think J.K. Simmons did well with his inspiration and his like developing the world in the beginning. And so I think that was good. Nick Kroll was there to play a crazy role, and that was perfect.
I wish they did more marketing and advertising with him.
It was kind of small. It was kind of a small piece, but it was an important piece.
It was an important piece,
and I think he did it. He was right for it.
That would have upped up like the comedy aspect of it.
But he's not the one to bring he's not the one to hold up the comedy.
I guess that's true.
That was Chris Evans.
Yeah, that was Chris Evans.
What I'm gonna say is I love Chris Evans, and I think he did a great job. I don't think he was right for the role.
Who do you think, like, alternate casting?
I said Justin Long, but like 30-year-old Justin Long.
But he's not gonna bring butts to seats. Like, he's not
Not
love
like Chris
Justin
Evans.
Long, but not like Chris Evans.
Not like Chris Evans. So I totally get like Chris Evans, sure.
What if it was like Ryan Reynolds?
Ryan Reynolds. So I think like I just don't really enjoy the character very much.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to sympathize with him when he's just so opposite from me. Like so that's not really the fault of
Do you
the writing
think
or
if
direction.
it was like Ryan Reynolds, it would have brought more people to the theater?
Oh, that's kind of tough. It might have brought more of the right people to the theater, to be honest, because Captain America, you're thinking more family.
Christmas, right? Yeah.
He's more of a family fan base now, whereas Ryan Reynolds is pretty exclusively that young.
Which is funny
adult
because
male.
I mean, Chris Evans, like you look at Knives Out, you look at Defending Jacob, like you look at Gifted, you look at his.
I don't know a lot of those, and
You know Knives Out.
I'm aware of it, but I didn't want to see it. I wasn't.
But I mean, he was like a more antagonistic role. It was definitely more of the older demographic, but
yeah, so that's my point.
and that was his best work, Chris Evans.
Yeah. So I think Ryan Reynolds might have been better. But the whole, like, as soon as I saw he was like the character was like a whole hacker man. And
yeah.
I was like, hacker man, like, really gonna do the hacker man one? You're like, and so I was expecting like, okay, he's gonna save the day because of some hacking BS, like pulling out of nowhere. And that didn't even happen.
No.
He was.
It started it. It was the inciting incident.
He was a hacker because they needed a tracker. And he could track anybody, but did he ever use his like hacking prowess to find
Yeah, I think
Santa?
he did.
He must have.
I think he did.
He must have, but it's always just such a crutch of like, oh yeah, let me slap some keys and got it, hacked into the mainframe, and I know exactly what we needed to move in the plot point.
But I mean, the actual movie aside, like looking at it from a marketing, advertising standpoint.
I think it's all one and the same though, because it's like that character is there for a reason, and how can I relate to that character because of that reason to get me to go watch it? And I can't relate to any of that. Like
That's true.
And so,
but I don't even think it got that far in terms of like marketing materials. Like I didn't know he was a hacker.
neither did I.
I didn't know anything about the characters. All I knew was Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans are beating snowmen up. It's basically all I got.
You know, Ryan Reynolds was an interesting one because him and in Red Ryan Reynolds and DJ, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were together in that.
I didn't see it.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry to all the people that worked on it.
They were. And I think that chemistry worked out well because it was Ryan Reynolds just like messing around
Doing
with
his
DJ
thing,
and DJ just
yeah.
being like straight faced and like, I'm tired of you. And that's what this was with Chris Evans and DJ just being like, DJ being fed up with this Jack character. And I like Chris Evans. I think he hit all the beats he was supposed to. Like, he's a great actor. I just don't think the chemistry was there. I don't think he brought what that character truly needed. And to be honest, yeah, I think Ryan Reynolds might have been better in that role.
What if it was like a totally different left field, shake it up sort of, I don't know, like a Michael B. Jordan or like a...
Donald Glover.
Oh, Donald Glover.
Donald Glover. Hold on. Let me think about that.
That could be interesting.
Donald Glover. He could
do that. I don't know how his chemistry would be with.
Right, that's the biggest thing I'm trying to, because he's not really goofy or.
But like he is, like he was so goofy in Community.
But he's like, I think he might be a little too witty for the chemistry to land with Dwayne Johnson though, because like Dwayne Johnson's thing is like.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but Donald Glover needs something to play off of, kind of, because like think of him in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where he like traps the other character and he messes with people as the character, like he's a playful character.
But I do just feel like we've seen this trope, these two characters, so many times with actors similar to plug in a Ryan Gosling, Ryan Reynolds, Chris Pratt, Chris Evans. Like we've seen it a lot with that kind. They all have very similar to brands, I feel like. So to just like throw in a wrench like Donald Glover, someone else that's like totally left field, I just wonder what it would do.
I would see that as too much of a risk because it's
maybe with a $200 million movie,
or like Kevin Hart, right? People, Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson have done so much together.
Yeah.
They have their own audience. Like the Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson audience is an audience that's separate from the
sector. Yeah.
And so that could have been a good way to go.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Because he's in the same clique. Like he's in this, they've done stuff together. Jack Black is in the same clique as Jumanji and stuff. Like they've something familiar.
Oh my god! If it was Jack Black as a hacker, I'd be so in. Jack Black and Dwayne Johnson buddy cop action movie, and Jack Black is this like nerdy hacker. I'm so in.
Because I believe Jack Black is a hacker. I don't really believe Chris Evans is a hacker. And also Jack Black, he fits that that tone of like loser, like I'm sorry, I messed up. Sorry, bud, you're my kid, but I don't really, I'm not a good dad.
I don't really buy Chris Evans as that.
Yeah, like I look at Chris Evans and I'm like, you look like you would be the good dad.
You're a superhero.
Yeah. And so, love Chris Evans. Don't think that was the best casting though. But I totally get it. For that specific character, yeah. And then the what's her name? The main antagonist.
Kiernan Shipka.
Yeah, she just. I think it might have to do with like maybe the writing. But maybe we just didn't spend enough time with her to really understand her motives, because I mean she's said them, which is always fun, being sarcastic. but she just had a whole scene where she just spoke about what her motives are and what her intentions are, and
I think they realized they needed a Gen Z female audience. They needed to
reach a different sector. Yeah.
They needed
so they grabbed her.
Yeah, they grabbed her. I mean, she's great. She's a great actress. She's done Mad Men, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. She was in Twisters recently.
I think she fit the bill. It's just like that shouldn't have been the bill.
Yeah.
because I think she did everything great. It's just like when I watched that character, I was like, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And it was like, I was thinking, I was like, is there a point for her being like young? Like,
Yeah, honestly, I felt like Dwayne Johnson was a bigger antagonist than she was,
yeah, sure.
which kind of sounds like that's a little ridiculous, but I saw more opposition to the story from him because in a way we were rooting for Chris Evans' character to like do the good thing and do the right thing and blah blah blah, and Dwayne Johnson was constantly getting in his the character was getting in his way, sort of. They were struggling, working together and all that. And so I really didn't even feel like her presence there as an antagonist. And I think that's got to be, that's right.
That's just a writing thing, yeah. Overall, lessons learned from looking at Red One as a whole in terms of like the analysis, what do you think you've learned? What have you taken away from it?
I think star power is not top priority. I think it's casting the right people. But even before that, you need to make sure that your vision is communicating the message that you want to communicate. And then once you have a clear understanding of what message you're trying to communicate, what kind of time you want your audience to have, good time, fun time, an exciting time, a serious time, a time of growth or whatever, like you need to decide what that is and then get the appropriate people to act as the characters to be the vehicle to bring that message home.
Yeah.
And, so really it just comes down to just make a good film. Just make the best film you can and focus on working with the people that can get you there rather than just thinking numbers, big numbers, I should be good,
Yeah, I think for me it's that star power alone isn't enough.
Yeah.
You got to be thinking more outside of it. The world of film is so ingrained in society nowadays. In 2024, it's now about social media and overall press junkets and all this stuff that goes into it. It's not just star power. It's also chemistry. It's also all these other things that go into it.
I think chemistry is something that people like love.
Yeah.
And it's like
that's what takes something from even just like a successful movie to a long-lasting cult classic, I think, is the chemistry.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look at any TV show, any long-lasting TV show ever, it's because there's a good amount of chemistry there.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter how good your story is, doesn't matter anything else. It's like, it's all about the chemistry between the characters.
Yeah, I'll watch a bad plot for two characters that have like impeccable chemistry.
I mean, just look at procedural shows.
Yeah.
You know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And to a degree, your brain likes that. But it's like what keeps you interested is the little isms of probably the two main characters, It's
especially if it's like a buddy cop-esque plot. It's like those buddy cops, they better be impeccable chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. And then, what could we do to have a bigger investment, return on investment of like films, for example? Like, I think it's really just like not undervaluing marketing and advertising and understanding the differences between them. Because I hear a lot of people equating marketing with marketing and advertising. And that makes me worry that people don't know the difference of like marketing and advertising. Because I hear they're like, oh, marketing, when they're talking about like a commercial or a trailer.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not marketing. It involves marketing, and it's like, your marketing is the research, who is this going to? And then the advertising.
The overall strategy, the plan.
And then advertising is like, what is being sent? What's the product that's going in front of the person? Yeah, and so it's like, are you doing both? Because this is a prime example of it doesn't look like both happened. Or there was a disconnect between them. And it's hard. It's really hard to do. It's definitely not easy, and it's a ton of work. But I think it kind of like happens every time that if you put more work into it, you have more options to succeed. And because it's not a game of risk or so much when you have a lot more chances, to land. This metaphor is getting crazy. This analogy is getting crazy.
Yeah.
But when you shoot more shots, you're more likely to land one.
And I do think it really does. Like, you could have the best product in the world, you could have the world's greatest film, but if your marketing and advertising either isn't up to par, or isn't advertising the actual product that is being delivered, like, A, no one's gonna see it, or people aren't gonna like it, even though the thing itself is great. And I think that's important. Like, talking about this, like, we were surprised. We were very surprised with it, like, pleasantly surprised, but it was like, we almost didn't watch this.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have watched it, to be honest, if it wasn't for this. So, and I think that came down to the marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening to our episode on Red One. Let us know what you think. If you have any other, like, differenting opinions than us.
Yeah. Or if there's anything that you want us to review,
Yeah.
movie-wise, and if you have your own questions, something you want us to talk about, be happy to.